I smoothed my Prada dress as I walked into the country club, the invitation to my mother's 60th birthday party feeling heavy in my designer clutch. Not because of the fit cardstock, but because of the handwritten note my sister Jessica had added. Try to dress appropriately this time. No need to remind everyone about your career choices. My name is Victoria Chen, and at 32, I was apparently still the family disappointment. Despite building a successful private equity firm from scratch, despite managing over $2 billion in assets, I was still the one who had abandoned the family practice to play with money. The Maxwell Country Club's grand ballroom was decorated in my mother's favorite cream and gold theme. Crystal chandeliers cast elegant shadows over round tables where Seattle's most prominent medical families gathered to celebrate Dr. Diana Chen, renowned neurosurgeon and perfect mother, at least to my siblings. "Vicky," my father's voice boomed across the room. Dr. William Chen, chief of surgery, approached with my sister Jessica and brother Michael flanking him like perfectly groomed satellites. Both followed in his medical footsteps. Jessica, a cardiothoracic surgeon, Michael, a neurosurgeon like Mom. "You came," Jessica said, eyeing my dress with barely concealed criticism. "And in red. How bold." I bit back a retort about how my Prada probably cost more than her monthly salary. "Happy birthday, Mom," I said instead, turning to the guest of honor. My mother's smile was practiced, professional, the same one she used for hospital board meetings. "Thank you for coming, Victoria. Your Aunt Sarah was just asking about you." Aunt Sarah, the family gossip coordinator. Right on cue, she materialized beside us, wine glass in hand. "Victoria, darling," she trilled, "still doing that investment thing. Such a shame about medical school. You had such potential." I forced a smile. "The investment thing is going quite well, actually. We just closed a major." "Oh, Jessica, tell everyone about your latest surgery." Aunt Sarah interrupted, effectively dismissing my accomplishments. 12 hours in the OR, I heard. Simply brilliant. The pattern was familiar. Every family gathering became a medical conference where my siblings' achievements were celebrated, while my success in finance was treated like a hobby gone too far. Never mind that my firm, Aurora Capital, had become one of the most successful boutique investment firms on the West Coast. I checked my phone discreetly. A message from my executive assistant, Margaret. "Everything's ready. Documents signed. Press release approved. Should I proceed as planned?" I typed back quickly. "Wait for my signal." "Victoria, put the phone away," my mother chided. "It's time for the toasts." The guests gathered around the main table. One by one, my family members stood to praise the birthday girl. Father spoke about their shared passion for medicine. Michael discussed following in her footsteps. Jessica tearfully thanked Mom for being her role model in a male-dominated surgical field. Then Aunt Sarah stood up, champagne glass swaying slightly. "To my beloved sister-in-law, who raised 3 children. Well, 2 successful doctors at least." She laughed, others joining in. "Some of us just aren't cut out for greatness. Right, Victoria?" The room tittered. Jessica smirked. Michael at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. "She's always been a disappointment," Aunt Sarah continued, warming to her theme. "But Diana never gave up hope that Victoria would come to her senses. There's still time for medical school, dear." More laughter. My mother didn't even bother to defend me, just smiled, that practiced smile. I felt my phone buzz again. "Margaret, CNN wants a comment on the acquisition. NYT running the story in 10 minutes. Should I delay?" I looked around the room at my laughing relatives, at the decades of dismissal crystallized in their smirking faces, at my siblings' smug superiority and my parents' practiced disappointment. "No," I typed back. "Come now. Bring everything." "On my way," she replied immediately. 3 minutes. I stood up, smoothing my red dress again. "Actually, Aunt Sarah, I have an announcement of my own." "Victoria," my father warned, "this is your mother's moment." "Oh, I think Mom will want to hear this," I said, just as the ballroom doors opened. Margaret walked in, impeccable in a tailored black suit, carrying a leather portfolio. Her heels clicked purposefully across the marble floor as conversations died away. "I apologize for interrupting," she said professionally. "But Ms. Chen, the acquisition is complete. You're now officially the owner of Pacific Northwest Medical Group." The sound of dropped forks hitting fine china echoed through the suddenly silent room. My father's face went pale. "Pacific Northwest, that's our hospital group." "Was your hospital group," I corrected quietly, "along with all 18 locations, the research facilities, and the medical school." Jessica's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. "That's impossible," my mother whispered. "The board would never sell to an outsider." I smiled, channeling years of boardroom negotiations. They would win the outsider offers $4.8 billion and a guaranteed 30% increase in research funding. Margaret began distributing press packets to the stunned guests, many of whom, I noted with satisfaction, were board members of the now former Pacific Northwest Medical Group. "Happy birthday, Mom," I said softly. "I hope you don't mind that I bought the family business. I know how much you all value medical tradition." The room erupted in chaos as my phone began lighting up with news alerts. I nodded to Margaret, who stepped forward with the full announcement package. Sometimes the biggest disappointments come with billion-dollar price tags. The next few minutes unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of shock. Margaret distributed detailed press packets outlining the acquisition, while my phone continuously lit up with notifications from Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and Reuters. Pacific Northwest Medical Group acquired in $4.8 billion deal by Aurora Capital. Breaking. Largest medical group acquisition of 2024. Victoria Chen, the private equity queen, who just bought her family's legacy. My father grabbed one of the press packets, his hands shaking slightly. "This is a joke. It has to be." "Page 3 has the complete transaction summary," I offered helpfully. "The board voted unanimously this morning. Though I'm sure Aunt Sarah's husband Robert can confirm that, being the board secretary and all." All eyes turned to Uncle Robert, who suddenly seemed very interested in his water glass. "Robert?" Aunt Sarah's voice rose shrilly. "Did you know about this?" He cleared his throat uncomfortably. The offer was extremely generous. The pension guarantees alone were unprecedented. Margaret stepped forward again, her tablet displaying real-time updates. "Ms. Chen, CNBC is requesting a live interview in 20 minutes. Also, the first wave of organizational changes is ready to implement." Jessica jumped up. "Organizational changes? You can't just walk in and start firing people." "Actually," I replied calmly, "as the new majority owner, I can, but I'm more interested in certain strategic repositioning." I nodded to Margaret, who pulled up a document on her tablet. "Dr. Michael Chen," she read professionally, "currently heading neurosurgery at Pacific Northwest General, is being transferred to our new research facility in Anchorage, Alaska." Michael's face went from red to white. Alaska? Don't worry, I assured him. The Polar Bear Research Initiative is fascinating. Mom always said you had a way with dangerous animals. This is revenge, my mother said quietly, finally finding her voice. Because we wouldn't support your decision to leave medicine. I turned to her, keeping my expression neutral. No, Mom. This is business. Something none of you ever bothered to understand. Margaret continued reading. Dr. Jessica Chen's cardiac unit is being restructured. Her new position will be coordinating with our rural satellite clinics in eastern Washington. Rural clinics? Jessica shrieked. My research will be handled by more qualified teams, I finished. Teams that don't falsify data to get published. The room went silent again. Jessica's face drained of all color. Oh yes, I added, the acquisition due diligence was very thorough. We found some interesting irregularities in your last 3 papers. The medical board will be receiving a full report next week. My father stood up, attempting to reassert control. Now listen here. No, Dad, you listen. I held up my phone, displaying a chart. Pacific Northwest's profit margins have dropped 40% under your leadership. The research department has fallen to 9th place nationally. The only thing growing is the administrative bloat that keeps our dear family members in cushy positions. Margaret distributed another set of documents. The comprehensive audit results, she explained to the stunned room, including detailed breakdowns of nepotism in hiring practices, misallocation of research funds, and some creative accounting in the charity care program. Several board members began urgently texting their lawyers. Aunt Sarah was practically hyperventilating. You've been running this hospital group like a family country club, I continued. Promoting based on last names rather than talent. That ends today. My mother's birthday cake sat forgotten on the main table. 60 unlit candles standing like accusatory fingers. The press release goes wide in 2 minutes, Margaret announced. The markets open in 12 hours. Would you like me to summarize the projected stock impact? I smiled. No need. I'm sure my family understands basic economics. When news breaks that Aurora Capital is modernizing Pacific Northwest's outdated management structure, shares should jump at least 25%. You can't do this to your own family, my mother pleaded. Funny, I replied. That's exactly what I said when you all turned your backs on me for choosing finance over medicine. When you excluded me from family events because I was an embarrassment. When you told every family friend that your daughter was finding herself instead of acknowledging I was building a billion-dollar company. I walked to the main table and picked up the champagne bottle. But let's not waste Mom's birthday party on business talk. After all, family comes first, right? That's what you always said, Dad. The door opened again as my firm's PR team entered, followed by photographers from major business publications. Mrs. Chen, one of them called out, "Could we get a photo of you with your daughter? The businesswoman who just made your hospital group national news." My mother's practiced smile completely failed her. Actually, I said, let's make it a real family photo. Jessica, Michael, come stand by Mom. Dad, too. I turned to Aunt Sarah. You should join as well. After all, you've all been so supportive of my career choices. They moved stiffly into position, years of society photos making it automatic even in crisis. Perfect, I said, raising my glass. Margaret, please make sure everyone has champagne. We should toast properly. Margaret efficiently distributed glasses, though most hands that took them were shaking. To family, I announced, my voice carrying clearly for the photographers. and to never being a disappointment again. The cameras flashed, capturing the exact moment my family realized that their medical empire now answered to the daughter they dismissed for so long. The aftermath was immediate and dramatic. As the photographers captured the forced family portrait, Margaret's tablet beeped with incoming market reactions. Pre-market trading had Pacific Northwest stock up 28% on news of the acquisition. "Victoria," my father hissed between staged smiles. "We need to talk privately." "Now." "Of course," I agreed pleasantly. "Margaret, please show the press to the conference room next door. We'll join them shortly for the official statements." As the media filed out, my father's professional demeanor cracked completely. "How long have you been planning this? This hostile takeover?" "Hostile?" I raised an eyebrow. "The board voted unanimously. Though you'd know that if you'd attended the meeting instead of sending your proxy to Uncle Robert. Because I was planning your mother's birthday," he exploded. "No," I corrected. "Because you never thought I'd be capable of something like this." The disappointment couldn't possibly understand enough about business to outmaneuver the great Dr. William Chen. Jessica stepped forward, her surgeon's confidence wavering. "The rural clinics. You can't really mean to." Page 12 of the reorganization plan, Margaret interjected smoothly, handing her a detailed document. "Your transfer is effective Monday. The housing allowance in Yakima is quite generous." "Yakima?" Jessica whispered, horror-struck. "Consider it a character-building opportunity," I smiled. "Mom always said we should give back to underserved communities." Michael was frantically scanning his own transfer papers. "This is ridiculous. I'm one of the top neurosurgeons in Seattle." "You're the son of the top neurosurgeon in Seattle," I corrected. "There's a difference. One the medical board will be very interested in when they review your certification history." My mother, who had been unnaturally quiet, finally spoke. "What do you want, Victoria?" "Money." "Recognition? Is this about your trust fund?" I laughed, the sound echoing off the crystal chandeliers. "My firm manages $2 billion in assets, Mom. I make more last quarter than the trust fund is worth." "Then why?" she demanded. "Margaret," I called, "show them the other folder." My assistant produced a thick file, placing it on the table next to the untouched birthday cake. Inside were papers spanning 15 years. Every dismissive email, every snide comment about my career choice documented in family correspondence. Every time they'd excluded me from medical galas or fundraisers because I was just in finance. "I kept everything," I explained. Every time Aunt Sarah announced my failure at family events. Every time Jessica told hospital staff I couldn't hack it in medicine. Every time Dad introduced Michael as his successful child at medical conferences. The room was dead silent now, not even Aunt Sarah daring to speak. "But most importantly," I continued, pulling out one final document, "I kept Mom's letter from 3 years ago. The one where you said you were grateful your reputation in the medical community wouldn't be tarnished by my choices anymore." My mother's face went ashen. "That was private. Like the private board meetings where you blocked Aurora Capital from hospital partnerships because you didn't want your daughter's hobby business associated with Pacific Northwest?" I asked sweetly. "Those kinds of private discussions." Margaret's tablet chimed again. "Ms. Chin, the SEC filing is complete. Would you like me to announce the new board composition?" "Please do," I nodded. She turned to address the stunned family. "The new board of directors for Pacific Northwest Medical Group will be led by Chairwoman Victoria Chen. The executive committee includes 3 Harvard Business School professors, 2 healthcare innovation experts, and the former CEO of Mayo Clinic. You're taking control of the board? My father stammered. I already have, I corrected. The shareholder vote was this morning. Though you'd know that if you read any of the proxies you signed last month. Amazing how people don't question paperwork when they think they're too important to be challenged. Jessica sank into a chair, her perfect surgical posture crumpling. This will ruin us. No, I said firmly. This will fix what you ruined. Pacific Northwest's rankings have dropped every year under family management. The research output is a joke. The only things growing are the administrative salaries for family members. I picked up my champagne glass again. But thanks to Mom's excellent birthday party timing, we get to announce the restructuring as a positive transformation. Beloved Family Medical Group embraces next-generation leadership. Much better headlines than nepotism-riddled hospital group forced to modernize. Margaret approached with a final set of papers. The press is ready for your statement, and Dr. William Chen's office has been cleared as requested. My father's head snapped up. My office? The new CEO starts Monday, I explained. She's from Johns Hopkins. Highly recommended. Though she might keep some of your degrees on the wall, as a historical reference. The weight of what was happening finally seemed to hit them. This wasn't just an acquisition. It was a complete dismantling of their medical dynasty. You've destroyed this family, my mother whispered. I straightened my red dress, checking my reflection in a nearby mirror. No, Mom. I've just reorganized it. More efficiently, more professionally, and more profitably. I smiled. Isn't that what you always wanted? For me to learn from your example? Margaret opened the ballroom doors, where cameras and reporters waited. Now, I said, shall we go tell everyone about the exciting changes coming to Pacific Northwest Medical Group? After all, it's a birthday celebration. We should give them something to remember. The following weeks transformed Pacific Northwest Medical Group with the same surgical precision my family had once prided themselves on. Margaret orchestrated the transitions flawlessly, each change cutting deeper into the old dynasty's power structure. Jessica's rural reassignment made the local medical newsletter. Top Seattle surgeon brings expertise to underserved communities. The PR team crafted it perfectly, making any complaint from her sound like elitism. She lasted 2 weeks in Yakima before resigning. Last I heard, she was interviewing at small private practices in Portland. Michael's Alaskan adventure never materialized. The morning his transfer was announced, 3 different medical boards received anonymous tips about his certification irregularities. He took an indefinite leave of absence to spend time with family. The fact that this coincided with a formal investigation was, officially, unrelated. Aunt Sarah's husband, Robert, quietly retired from the board, though the SEC's interest in certain voting irregularities during his tenure suggested the quiet wouldn't last. They sold their Bellevue mansion and moved to Arizona, citing the better weather rather than the ongoing audit of family banking records. My father held out the longest, attempting to rally his old medical school contacts for support. But influence only goes so far when faced with stockholder satisfaction. Pacific Northwest's share price had jumped 45% in the first month under new management. Efficiency was up, costs were down, and research grants had doubled. The Q1 numbers are excellent, Margaret reported one morning, exactly 30 days after my mother's birthday party. The Wall Street Journal is running a feature on the successful transformation of family-run medical groups. They're calling you a healthcare visionary. I smiled, looking out from my new office. formerly my father's, at the Seattle skyline. And the staff satisfaction surveys? Up 62% since removing the family preference hiring policies. Turns out people appreciate promotions based on merit rather than last names. A knock at the door interrupted us. My mother stood there, looking smaller somehow in regular clothes rather than her usual surgical attire. "Victoria," she said stiffly, "do you have a moment?" Margaret glanced at me questioningly. I nodded. "Give us 10 minutes. Once we were alone, my mother took in the office changes. The modern art replacing Dad's medical diplomas, the sleek furniture, the empty spaces where family photos once stood. "Your father's taking an advisory position at Stanford," she announced. "We're moving to California next month." "I know," I replied. "The board approved his resignation this morning." She flinched slightly at the reminder of the new power structure. Was any of this necessary? This public humiliation of your own family? I leaned back in my chair, not my father's anymore. Was it necessary to humiliate me for 15 years because I chose a different path? Was it necessary to block business partnerships because you were embarrassed by my success? Was it necessary to call me a disappointment at every family gathering? "We wanted what was best for you," she insisted. "No," I corrected. "You wanted what was best for your reputation. There's a difference." I pulled out my tablet, showing her the latest hospital rankings. Pacific Northwest is up 12 spots nationally. Research funding has doubled. Patient satisfaction is at an all-time high. Tell me again how I disappointed the family legacy. She stared at the numbers, her medical training making them impossible to dismiss. "And this was your plan all along, to take over and push us out." "Actually," I said thoughtfully, "I tried 3 times to partner with Pacific Northwest properly, to bring in capital, to modernize operations, to collaborate. You and Dad blocked it each time because you couldn't stand the idea of your failed daughter having any influence." I stood up, walking to the window. "So yes, when the board approached Aurora Capital about acquisition talks, I took the opportunity. But you created the situation where that was the only option left. And now?" she asked quietly. "What happens to this family now?" I turned back to her. "That depends on whether you can finally accept that your daughter built something valuable, even if it wasn't what you planned." She was quiet for a long moment, looking around the office that represented everything they'd lost and everything I'd gained. "The hospital," she started, then corrected herself. "The medical group is doing better. The numbers prove it." It wasn't quite an apology, but from Dr. Diana Chen, it was close. "Yes," I agreed, "it is." She nodded once, gathering her designer handbag. "Stanford will be different. A fresh start, perhaps." "Perhaps," I echoed. At the door, she paused. "That red dress, at my birthday, it was quite striking." Then she was gone, the click of her heels fading down the hallway. Margaret entered a moment later. "Everything okay?" I smiled, sitting back down at my desk. "Schedule a call with Stanford's board for next week. Let's discuss potential West Coast partnerships." She raised an eyebrow, offering an olive branch. "No," I replied, picking up the latest financial report. "Just good business. After all, that's what the disappointment does best." The Seattle sunshine streamed through my office windows, lighting up the space that had once represented everything I couldn't have. Now it was simply another milestone in the empire I'd built. Not despite my family's dismissal, but because of it. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying what others built, but in building something better than they ever imagined possible, even if it takes a birthday party to deliver the news.